Now to the 2012 presidential race. Minnesota Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann is officially kicking off her run for the Republican presidential nomination today. Already there are signs she may be breaking out of the pack. ABC's John Karl has more from her hometown in Waterloo, Iowa. Good morning, John.
And good morning from Waterloo, Robin. For Bachmann, this kickoff could not come at a better time. There is no Republican candidate with more energy and more momentum right now than Michelle Bachmann.
Meet the new frontrunner in Iowa.
I don't have a teleprompter. I don't know if you noticed that up here. President Bachmann may be retiring that thing, by the way, when I get to the White House.
To make her big announcement, Michelle Bachmann is making a triumphant return to the place she was born, Waterloo, Iowa.
Welcome home!
Bachmann is known as a take-no-prisoners conservative, dubbed Queen of the Tea Party this week by the conservative Weekly Standard magazine.
My husband.
But here in Iowa, she is talking family, introducing her husband, Marcus, 4 of her 5 children,
There they are.
and even her 80-year-old mom.
Now you know that I came by my height honestly.
After stealing the show at the last Republican debate,
We need everybody to come together because we're going to win.
Bachmann is no longer considered a fringe candidate. In fact, a new Des Moines Register poll has her in a statistical tie with Mitt Romney for first place. And she trounces Romney among the conservative voters who dominate the Iowa caucuses. In an interview with ABC News, Bachmann touted her uncompromising brand of politics.
I know you may not see it, Carl, but this is a titanium spine back here.
Titanium spine.
I have a titanium spine, and I will stand strong for those values that I learned here in Iowa, and I'm going to take that voice to the White House.
Now, is there a suggestion that some of those other Republicans running don't exactly have titanium spines?
All I know is that I have one.
With her new frontrunner status also comes more scrutiny.
Are you a flake?
Well, I think that would be insulting to say something like that.
Chris Wallace later apologized for asking that question.
I messed up. I'm sorry.
Do you accept his apology?
Well, I think that it's insulting to insinuate that a candidate for the president is less than serious. I'm a very serious individual. I have a very strong background, a strong resume.
But do you accept his apology? He apologized to you.
Those are the small issues. I'm focused on the big ones. But thank you.
Good evening. He is the man at the hot center of a controversy that is building tonight. Republican frontrunner Herman Cain accused of sexual harassment or inappropriate behavior. And today, another accuser coming forward, making it 5 women in all. After days of trying to dodge questions, he decided to come out swinging, question live online by ABC's John Karl, who tells us about the new developments today and what Cain had to say.
Herman Cain faced the world today with a categorical denial of all allegations against him.
The charges and the accusations I absolutely reject. They simply didn't happen. They simply did not happen.
A second woman, Karen Krashauer, who is now a Treasury Department official, went public today in an interview with the New York Times. This after Sharon Bialek held a press conference yesterday saying Cain sexually harassed her back in 1997.
He suddenly reached over and he put his hand on my leg, under my skirt.
In an exclusive interview for ABC News Yahoo, Cain said he doesn't even remember meeting her.
They are baseless because I reject them. And in this particular case, I don't even know who this lady is. And when I first saw her, I didn't recollect I didn't even recognize her.
But let's be clear, you're saying that she is lying about this.
Yes, I am saying that, in as nice a way as I can. I don't know any other way to say it.
Cain says he most regrets the pain the controversy has caused his family, especially his wife of 43 years, Gloria.
And even though my wife is more of a quieter person than I am, she has a quiet, sweet personality. She can get angry like anybody else.
So is she angry about this?
Oh, yes. Yeah, she'll tell you flat out she's angry about it.
Karen Krashauer, the latest woman to come forward to accuse Kane, says that she wants to get together with the other women that have made accusations to hold a joint press conference. In other words, Diane, it does not look like this is over yet.
We're going to turn now to politics, your voice, your vote tonight, into a quickly shifting Republican race. It was 1 month ago, former Speaker Newt Gingrich made this bold prediction to Jake Tapper right here on World News.
I mean, it's very hard not to look at the recent polls and think that the odds are very high I'm going to be the nominee.
That was then, but tonight the newest poll showing Newt Gingrich quickly dropping, now in 5th place after being the frontrunner in Iowa for a time. And today on the trail, what was it that made Gingrich tear up? ABC's John KARL was one-on-one with Gingrich and reports in from Iowa now.
Iowa saw a different side of Newt Gingrich today. It happened when he was asked about his mother, who suffered from bipolar disease and depression before she died in 2003.
And my whole emphasis on brain science comes in directly from dealing see how you have emotional, from dealing with, the real problems of real people in my family.
A genuine moment of emotion reminiscent of 4 years ago when candidate Hillary Clinton teared up just before the New Hampshire primary.
I just don't want to see us fall backwards.
Earlier in the day, Gingrich was all smiles.
Mr. Speaker, good
But
to
the
see
candidate who was riding so high just a couple weeks ago has been battered.
Can you still say as confidently today as you told us less than a month ago, I'm going to be the nominee?
I was being analytical when I said it. I think there's a very real likelihood that I can be the nominee, but it's going to be a fight.
Why has Gingrich tanked so quickly? Just turn on the TV in Iowa.
Serial hypocrites.
30 years in Washington, flip-flopping on issues.
Newt Gingrich on the defense for taking $1.5 million.
I made a big mistake in the spring.
Haven't we had enough mistakes?
Nearly half of all political ads here, some 45% of them, have been negative against Newt Gingrich. It's been a pile-on, and Gingrich has not hit back.
We're gradually going to have to figure out how to essentially take apart the negative ads. I mean, I am committed to running a positive campaign, and we have to find a way to communicate. Because I just think politics has become a really nasty, vicious, negative business. And I think it's disgusting. And I think it's dishonest. And I think the people who are running the ads know they're dishonest. And I think a person who'll do that to try to get to be president offers you no hope that they'll be any good as president.
And what if he runs against Obama?
So if you're the Republican nominee, no negative ads against Barack Obama?
You don't have to be negative about Barack Obama. Just tell the truth. More people have gotten food stamps under Barack Obama than ever before in American history. If you think that's an achievement, he'd be a good president.
Your voice, your vote, 4 days until the giant showdown called Super Tuesday. And today the frontrunner, Mitt Romney, was asked about a tape that is raising a new question about something he had said before he ran for president and something he's saying now. It's a tape obtained exclusively by ABC News, and John KARL tells us more.
In Seattle today, Mitt Romney promised deep cuts to the federal budget.
I'm going to go through one by one and say, is this program so essential it's worth borrowing money from China to pay for it?
But in a long-lost video shot surreptitiously by Democrats in 2002 and obtained by ABC News, Romney is heard promising to go program by program for an entirely different reason, to get money for Massachusetts.
I'm a big believer in getting money where the money is, and the money is in Washington. I want to go after every grant, every project, every department in Washington to assure that we're taking advantage of economic development opportunities.
These days, Romney calls himself an outsider.
I'm the only guy that hasn't spent time in Washington.
Listen to him in 2002.
I've learned from my Olympic experience that if you have people that really understand how Washington works and have personal associations there, you can get money to help build economic development opportunities.
Romney now downplays the taxpayer money he received to help run the 2002 Salt Lake City Olympics.
In the history of the Olympic movement, the federal government has always provided the transportation and security. So we came to the federal government asking for help on transportation and security.
Back in 2002,
we actually received over $410 million from the federal government for the Olympic Games. That is a huge increase over anything ever done before. We did that by going after every agency of government. Over $1 million of Department of Education funding to buy tickets for kids.
Today, Romney defended his actions.
Governors, of course, from each state go to Washington seeking the support of Washington. Washington has money that it dribbles out to the states. I'd like to let the states keep those dollars themselves.
Today in Ohio, Rick Santorum had an entirely different take, calling the video evidence of Romney's, quote, hypocrisy, pure and simple. Hello and welcome to Spinners and Winners. I'm Jonathan Karl. Today we take a ride around Washington with one of the fastest rising Republican stars, somebody who is trying to change the way Washington works, and in the process has landed near the top of the list of potential running mates for Mitt Romney. Okay, so if Mitt Romney asks you, do you do it?
I don't know. I mean, that requires so much more careful thought and prayer with your family and yourself. I haven't given it the kind of serious consideration one really has to give such a question, because it's somebody else's decision months from now as to whether you're even going to be presented with that opportunity or not.
Okay, but you're going to have a question first, which is, are you willing to be vetted? And as you know, it's a pretty extensive process.
I don't worry about that sort of thing. None of that really.
So
that doesn't bother me too much.
Do you think you would be a good vice president?
I'm not going to get into any of that. You're trying to get me to.
But you know, the vice presidency, bucket of warm spit. As John McCain once said, your job is to ask every day about the health of the president.
Right? I haven't given enough thought to give you a smart answer.
Is it fair to call your budget the Romney-Ryan budget?
You know, it's the House budget. That's what I call it, because
okay, but the Democrats
the labels don't really. Look, Mitt Romney obviously supports what we're doing. He's proposed the same kinds of Medicare reforms. He's proposed similar tax reforms.
But do you expect Mitt Romney to act on your budget? I mean, do you expect that you basically...
Do I expect Mitt Romney to become president and get to work to prevent a debt crisis?
With your budget, with your approach?
Sure. I mean, I think we should negotiate things. I'm not one of these people who says, it's got to be this and nothing else. It's got to be my way or the highway. That's not the purpose of all of this. I want to get this debate going. I wanted to say, here's our solution. What's yours? Let's start compromising and debating. That hasn't happened yet.
Okay, Robin, thanks. Now to politics, your voice, your vote, and that breaking news in the Veep stakes for Mitt Romney. ABC's John Karl has learned that one of the most highly touted and popular choices, Florida Senator Marco Rubio, is not even being considered right now by the Romney team. John joins us now. And John, this is something of a surprise. A lot of Republicans like Jeb Bush think Rubio would be the most electrifying, most solid choice, but he isn't turning over any background materials?
That's right, and this is a surprise, George. For months, even before Romney secured the nomination, Marco Rubio had been at the top of virtually everybody's list of potential running mates. But what I have learned is he has not been asked to do even the first step. He has not been asked to fill out any questionnaires. He has not been asked to turn over any personal documents by the Romney vetting team. That is exactly the kind of stuff that you begin to do when you are looking at your short list of potential candidates. So although the Romney campaign will not comment, Marco Rubio will not comment. At this point, all indications are he is not even being considered as a running mate.
140 days until Americans go to the polls. It will be your voice, your vote. And last night we told you about Senator Marco Rubio, the Republican senator from Florida. Well, today he was at the center of a hairpin turn this morning after ABC's John Karl reported that Rubio was apparently not being vetted for a spot on the ticket as vice president. The Romney camp must have heard it, because by late this afternoon, a change. Here's John Karl.
He may be the Republican Party's fastest rising star, most prominent Hispanic, and as Mitt Romney saw just yesterday, the mere mention of Rubio's name draws applause from Republican activists.
I saw Marco Rubio the other day. We were together at a rally.
Knowledgeable Republicans told ABC News that Romney hasn't even asked Rubio to take the first step towards being considered a vice presidential candidate. No documents have been turned over, no questionnaires filled out. If not Rubio, who? 2 months ago, Romney named longtime aide Beth Myers to head up his VP search process. Today, he said not even his wife Ann knows who is on the short list.
I get a kick out of some of the speculation that goes on, and I'm not going to comment on the process, of course, but I can tell you this. Only Beth Myers and I know who's being vetted.
But there are clues. Former Minnesota Governor Tim Pawlenty has been on the stump with Romney, even appeared in one of his ads. And Republicans close to Romney say he's a top and maybe the top contender. For clues on others, watch Romney on the trail. He's recently been with 3 others believed to be under serious consideration: Ohio Senator Rob Portman, New Hampshire Senator Kelly Ayotte, and Wisconsin Congressman Paul Ryan. As for the 41-year-old Rubio, in his interview with David Muir, he suggested his time will come later.
And I think if I do a good job as a senator, I'll have other opportunities, both inside and outside of politics in the future. I don't know what they are, but I'll have them.
A good bet, whether or not this is the time. Jonathan Karl, ABC News, Washington.
When ABC's John Karl sat down for an interview with presidential candidate Mitt Romney. Romney was out combating allegations about his record at Bain Capital. It's your voice, your vote, and today Romney came out swinging.
He sure did, Diane. As you know, the Obama campaign has been hammering him over his record as a business executive, and one top Obama advisor even suggesting Romney committed a felony and was lying about when he stopped working for Bain Capital. As you can see in my interview, those attacks have struck a nerve.
That's ridiculous and disturbing to come from their campaign and beneath the dignity of the president and his campaign. The president needs to take control of these people. It's Chicago-style politics at its worst, and the president promised something better than this when he ran last time, and he ought to disavow it and rein in these people that are running out of control.
The Obama campaign has been hitting Romney hard for weeks in its TV ads.
Mitt Romney's companies were pioneers in outsourcing.
Romney says the attacks are out of bounds.
There was a report that they said that their campaign would be based upon a strategy of trying to, quote, kill Romney, end of quote. And that's what they're trying to do. He sure as heck ought to say he's sorry for the kinds of attacks that are coming from his team. It's very disappointing on his part.
The Obama team accuses Bain of shifting American jobs overseas, but most of that allegedly happened after Romney says he left the company in 1999.
I had no role whatsoever in the management of Bain Capital after February of 1999.
But filings with the Securities and Exchange Commission list Romney as CEO and president of the company until 2002. So you bear no responsibility for what happened to that company, even though those SEC forms list you as chairman and the chief executive officer and president of the company?
The ownership shares of the company were ownership shares which I retained. But when I left Bain Capital in February of 1999, I went out to run the Olympics and said goodbye to my colleagues. They took over the business.
We also asked Romney about those made-in-China U.S. Olympic uniforms. Should those uniforms be made in the USA?
You know, I'm not going to weigh in on that. The Olympic Games are about the athletes, and we're going to watch the athletes perform, and these other matters are extraneous, I think.
As for that request for an apology from the president, Diane, the Obama campaign told us it's not going to happen.
We asked the big picture questions tonight, beginning with the obvious one. Will Romney's choice help or hurt Romney's chances? We begin here with our senior political correspondent, John Karl, who is right there in Virginia tonight. John.
David, that bus tour has started here in Virginia, one of those make-or-break states. The Romney campaign believes that with Paul Ryan now on board, this is a brand new race. Mitt Romney went bold and got a little carried away in the moment.
Join me in welcoming the next president of the United States, Paul Ryan.
What was that?
The next president of the United States.
Not long after Ryan took the stage.
Every now and then I'm known to make a mistake. I did not make a mistake with this guy. But I can tell you this, he's going to be the next vice president of the United States.
To conservatives, it's an electrifying choice that puts the slumping economy and skyrocketing deficits front and center.
I hear some people say that this is just the new normal. Higher unemployment, declining incomes, and crushing debt is not a new normal. Come to order.
Ryan is the Republican with a plan to slash government spending by trillions of dollars, including politically dangerous changes to Medicare, replacing it in part with private insurance.
We will unite America and get this done.
To some Republicans, Ryan is a little too bold, too risky. When he first introduced his budget, only a handful of House Republicans supported it. We asked Ryan about that last year. What do you say to these, maybe weak-kneed Republicans?
This is not the time to go wobbly. They're going to run these attack ads at us regardless. This is a time for leaders to be leaders.
For Romney, the Ryan pick gives him an energetic 42-year-old partner, a numbers guy who can take on the president, as he did at a Republican conference 2 years ago.
The spending bills that you've signed into law, the domestic discretionary spending has been increased by 84%.
We'll have a longer debate on the budget numbers then. All right.
But last year, we saw Bill Clinton reach out to Ryan, saying he hopes Democrats would not just attack his plan, but try to work with him too.
But I hope the Democrats don't use it as an excuse to do nothing.
My guess is it's going to sink into paralysis is what's going to happen. And you know the math. I mean, it's just, we knew we were putting ourselves out there.
If you don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I'll give you a call. Great, thanks.
Republicans hope Paul Ryan will inject energy into the Romney campaign, and on day one anyway, it looks like he has. David?
As you heard from Alex Perez, tomorrow President Obama will be in New Jersey meeting with the governor there, Chris Christie. 7 days to go now until Americans go to the polls. Your voice, your vote. So what effect is this storm having on the race? Let's go to ABC's Jonathan Karl.
After canceling 8 campaign events in 5 states because of the storm, Mitt Romney transformed a planned Ohio rally today into a bid to support relief efforts.
We won't be able to solve all the problems with our effort this morning. One of the things I've learned in life is that you make the difference you can.
It has all the trappings of a traditional campaign event. You've got the stage, the big American flag, the campaign music, lots of Romney supporters, but you also have over here canned goods and other supplies that people have brought for victims of the storm. The storm has put Romney in something of a bind. While the president can go back and lead relief efforts,
This is something that is heartbreaking for the entire nation.
there's not much for Romney to do beyond encouraging supporters to pitch in. And with FEMA working overtime, Democrats are hammering him for what he said at a debate last year when asked if some of FEMA's responsibilities should be turned over to the states.
Absolutely. Every time you have an occasion to take something from the federal government and send it back to the states, that's the right direction. And if you can go even further and send it back to the private sector, that's even better.
Romney wouldn't answer questions about that today.
Governor, would you eliminate FEMA if you were president?
Even with all the canceled events, the campaign continues. Bill Clinton led a pro-Obama rally in Minneapolis today that appeared entirely political.
I have worked very hard in this election.
With a race this close, not even a storm of the century can bring this campaign to a halt. Jonathan Karl, ABC News, Kettering, Ohio.
It's your voice, your vote with just 5 days to go. And both sides back to all-out campaigning after the break imposed by Hurricane Sandy. ABC's John Karl is covering it all from the big Florida battleground this morning. And John, we have some new evidence that President Obama's response to the superstorm has solidified his position.
That's right, George. Polls show a solid approval of the president's response to the storm and narrow leads in all of the battleground states. But with just 5 days left, this campaign is about to return with a vengeance. Not only did President Obama tour the storm damage with New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, he also seemed to make a new Republican best friend.
I cannot thank the president enough for his personal concern and compassion for our state and for the people of our state.
The president returned the favor.
I have to say that Governor Christie, throughout this process, has been responsive. He's been aggressive in making sure that the state got out in front of this incredible storm.
Cooperation on disaster relief works. It also plays well politically. In the latest ABC News Washington Post poll, 78% of likely voters said the president has done a good or excellent job handling the storm. In the wake of the storm, Romney has struck a more positive tone, campaigning in Florida, but not directly criticizing the president.
Good Democrats love America just like good Republicans love America.
As for Paul Ryan, he took a short Halloween detour to his hometown of Janesville, Wisconsin, taking his kids trick-or-treating. His daughter dressed as Obama supporter Katy Perry, and one of his boys as the Grim Reaper. The ABC News Washington Post poll shows the race is tied nationally. 49% for Mitt Romney, 49% for Barack Obama. But each side seems convinced they're winning. The Obama campaign points to the battleground states. In all 8 of the states where the candidates are campaigning the hardest, the president is either tied or winning. The Romney campaign points to Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Minnesota, 3 states thought to be solidly Democratic, but where Obama is now playing defense. The president is back on the campaign trail today, going to Wisconsin, Colorado, and Nevada. Mitt Romney will be campaigning in Virginia. And George, you can expect both of them to be campaigning virtually nonstop between now and Tuesday.
What happens next as the country hurdles toward that fiscal cliff 55 days from now? ABC's Jonathan Karl covers Congress and tells us if the election sent a message to Washington and what kind.
From Speaker of the House John Boehner to the newly re-elected president, an olive branch.
Mr. President, the Republican majority here in the House stands ready to work with you.
They better work together. If they don't strike a deal to cut the deficit in just 55 days, by law, we face the so-called fiscal cliff, Taxmageddon, a mix of tax increases and defense spending cuts that would likely plunge the economy back into recession and give a big tax hike for virtually every family in America starting January 1st. The president has insisted and campaigned on raising tax rates on the wealthy. House Republicans campaigned on no tax increases, and they won too. Today from Boehner, a hint at a willingness to compromise.
We want you to succeed. Let's challenge ourselves to find the common ground that has eluded us. Let's rise above the dysfunction and do the right thing together for our country.
The newly elected Congress looks almost exactly like the last one, the same partisan divisions, maybe even a little bit deeper, that led to failure last time. But Diane, there also may be a new dynamic, that looming crisis forcing a compromise that just seemed impossible the last time around.
Well, we move next to an ABC News exclusive. Congressman Paul Ryan speaking out in his first network television interview about Mitt Romney, the big campaign, the tough election defeat. 1 week ago, millions of Americans saw his name on the ballot running for Vice President of the United States. Tonight, ABC's Jonathan Karl sits down with him to ask, why did they lose? How did it go wrong on election night?
How much of a shock was it?
Well, you know, we thought we had a really good chance of winning. You know, the polling and the data and all the people who are the smart people who watch this stuff, they had a pretty optimistic view on the night. And so going into Boston that day, we felt like we had a pretty darn good chance of winning. So as you can imagine, it was a bit of a shock when we didn't win.
You were the running mate, but was that the campaign Paul Ryan would have run?
Oh, gosh. You know, I think when you join a ticket 3 months out, you join somebody's campaign. I was really impressed with the way Mitt and Ann brought us into the fold. So I was very encouraged by that. I really enjoyed it. And I wanted to run a big campaign on ideas. We did that. We ran on ideas.
Saturday Night Live poked fun at Ryan, a native of Janesville, Wisconsin, for failing to help Romney win his home state.
Mother sent me to come get you, Father. Paul Ryan is doing feats of strength in the drawing room. She thought you'd like to see.
Yeah, well, I'd like to see him carry Wisconsin.
Father.
So what happened in Wisconsin? I mean, I looked back, you lost Janesville.
Well, John McCain, I think, got something like 35% in Janesville. I think we got a little higher than that.
A little bit.
A little bit. Janesville's always voted Democrat top of the ticket. Wisconsin has always voted Democrat top of the ticket, except for the Reagan '84 landslide. So we knew we were pushing against the trends. We knew it was an uphill battle, but we still fought.
So the president wins 330 some electoral votes, every battleground state with the exception of North Carolina. Does Barack Obama now have a mandate?
I don't think so, because they also reelected the House Republicans. So whether people intended or not, we've got divided government.
So you don't think there's a mandate here?
So I don't, because then they would have put Nancy Pelosi in charge of the House of Representatives. See, I think these ideas that we talked about, I think they're popular ideas. This was a very close election. And unfortunately, divided government didn't work very well the last 2 years. We're going to have to make sure it works in the next 2 years. That means, I think, that both parties have to talk to each other.
But could you see yourself supporting a plan that raises tax rates?
You know, I'm not for raising tax rates.
So you won't support a plan?
I don't want to get into negotiating with the media, but I do not support raising tax rates.
Period.
Yeah, I've said that. I've been saying that my entire career.
Diane Sawyer asked Speaker Boehner if you are now the de facto leader of the Republican Party, and his answer was,
Oh, I wouldn't think so. Paul Ryan's a policy wonk.
I take that as a great compliment from John.
So is that your role now in the Republican Party?
Look,
is you're kind of the House policy wonk?
I've always been one of the House policy wonks. My role is to continue to be a champion of ideas, to help our party be the reform party that shows how we get economic growth.
Ryan said he completely unplugged in the days after the campaign. He didn't even hear the news about David Petraeus' resignation or questions about its timing until later. Instead, he was hunting and spending time with his family.
You know, the great thing about this last weekend, I got to go to both my boys' basketball games. I got to go to 2 of my daughter's volleyball games.
So there's an upside to losing.
There's an upside to losing, which is reconnection with my family, which is something we're a very close family. People got to see our family. I'm excited about getting back to work here.
Paul Ryan's 3 kids, who are all in elementary school, saw one big upside to losing. They get to stay in their school. He told me they were worried that if he won, they were going to have to move to Washington and switch schools.
A consolation of some kind. I know you asked him about 2016. What about it? Is he in?
Well, he said it is way too early even to think about running in 2016. But Diane, a lot of Republicans say that he will be the clear front runner going into the 2016 battle for the Republican presidential nomination.
All right, Jonathan, KARL, an interview with Paul Ryan tonight. Thank you, John.